Welcome back to Open Source. I'm here with Ksenia Jourova. Okay, Ksenia, it's interesting, right? We've been talking about education, and we've been talking about the impact's gonna of AI and what it's gonna do and everything. But do we have like specifics? Like specifically, I mean, I know you're talking about preventing cheating with ChatGPT, but specifically, how is AI disrupting the education system?
Yeah, as I already said, the system is outdated and has been for a long time. I think that a lot of people who haven't been reading about how we got to ChatGPT are not thinking in terms of AI has been in existence since the 1950s. Like that was the beginning of the creation, the idea of how to create artificial intelligence. And so what we are now facing is the teacher's vulnerability with generative AI. That's different from just AI. Like these
Mm.
large language models are essentially creating a new language. To quote Yuval Harari, who's this famous historian and has written a lot and has been, giving interviews on all kinds of impacts of AI, he said, I don't call it artificial intelligence, I call it alien intelligence.
Mm.
It's not something that we can quite wrap our mind around yet. A lot of people use scary words like black box. We don't get how it gets its answers put together. We're confused. And the vulnerability is, I think in the lack of support for teachers. I think that there's not enough, especially right now here where I am, in Toronto, where, the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, at U of T is, commenting on the dangers of AI. And I think that that's what's being really grasped upon by a lot of people. The zeitgeist is fear, anxiety, and how can we make good decisions and build a good future for our education system out of fear or based on anxiety? I think that's just the wrong approach. I think we have to consider the risks, we have to talk about that, and we have to teach students ethical, responsible use of AI, but
Okay,
running
let me let
away.
me let me push back. Let
Yeah,
me push back a little bit.
sure.
It's a really interesting conversation. I'm glad you're on the show, right? Because obviously there's AI is really like a broad term. And speaking of generative AI like ChatGPT and all these chatbots, that's a pretty niche concept as well. But AGI, artificial general intelligence, is coming, right? Like this idea of this sort of like superhuman computer brain that kind of knows everything, um, is how is that going to impact education when this thing is coming that's going to be smarter than all of humanity combined? That's what I keep hearing. So obviously, if everyone else is, sort of a lesser version of that, like that's going to impact the education system, right?
100%. So if you want to think about the way I think opinions have sorted themselves into what I see as three groups. There are the techno-optimists like Ray Kurzweil, futurists, who basically are welcoming the idea that we can take whatever version of AGI that will emerge soon. Kurzweil's prediction is 2029. And we will implant chips, Musk's Neuralink project, et cetera, and we'll just make ourselves super intelligent so that it's not a humans versus technology, humans versus artificial intelligence, it's emerging, right?
Mm.
That's the one camp of their thinkers. I think the second camp, those are the pragmatists. Some really interesting books have come out in the last 5 years on artificial intelligence. So Stuart Russell's Human Compatible, for example, basically says, yeah, we need to learn how to live with artificial intelligence. He's an interesting philosopher professor who essentially talks about the problem of control, but he, as a pragmatist, says we need to learn how to use it and wield the power. And then there are people like Ethan Malik, who is a business professor in the US, and he actively teaches his students to create better marketing plans. using AI, right? So these are the pragmatists. I think I kind of belong to that group. And then the skeptics. And the skeptics are essentially saying, no, as you suggested, AI is going to disrupt education because it will essentially eliminate a lot of things that humans have been doing. So the labor industry
Yeah.
is going to be heavily impacted, and then therefore
Hmm.
education will not be able to catch up fast enough, and there's going to be mass unemployment.
We're gonna have
Lots.
to go to break, Xenia, but love
Yeah.
what you're doing here. We got Xenia Jourova here on open source.